Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. It's been very sticky weather here in South Australia and we had piles of rain yesterday, even more than we usually do in the winter. So it's a good day to be inside. So I am having a go at the prompt challenge that the lovely Tracie Fox has put up in her group, the Foxy Crafters. This year she'll be putting up a prompt at the start of each month that we can all use to create with. And then we put a photo of our creations up on the group page under the events tab. So if you go to the Foxy Crafters Facebook group, there are the tabs that you have on my computer. They're up the top of the page and one of them is events. If you click on that, it takes you to the events and you'll be able to find January's prompt challenge. Now, January is almost finished, so February is also a great time to start. So we have till the 28th to put our pictures up for the January prompt challenge. And the prompts for January, she's given us two, so we can pick and choose which one we want to do. And it is either the good old days or time traveller, I think they are, which is awesome and great fun, and heaps of people have already put pictures up and it's great to see the different ways that they have used the prompts. Tracie also prepared a digital for us to use if we want to, and that is in the Foxy Crafters group under the Files tab, so you can go hunting for that. I do have part of it here. Already started hacking away at it. So it's absolutely beautiful. So you can use that if you want to help you with the prompts. So I'm going to use it today and do a little project with you guys. So I have here a vintage page out of a steam engine book and also another page that has this map on it. It's a little glossy, but that's all right. I just really wanted to use that as a background. Got some packaging there and I have these Tim Holtz distress stains that I got recently that someone was destashing on Facebook. So I'm using a few different colours of them. I've got antique linen, I think I'm starting with. And then I have I think it's gathered twigs and hickory smoke that I'm using for this. So I've put the map onto the vintage book page about where I want to stick it down. I haven't stuck it down yet because if you stick it down and then wet it might wrinkle and bubble up and that. So I thought I wouldn't stick it down and I would do it like this and then stick it down afterwards. So I'm just adding my stain to the plastic and then dabbing it on in spots where I want it. Haven't used the stains before and I find them really easy to use and great fun, so I'll be using them a lot more. It was great to get a bulk lot off of Facebook to try out because I never thought of buying these before. So just adding a little bit of water there. And then I grab one of my distress oxides in a brown colour just to get some of the bits that I missed. So I've cut out these circles that were parts in the kit page and I'm just adding a bit of matte medium to them. It sort of just makes them look slightly glossy, even though it's a matte medium. It just adds a little bit of gloss and cover, and I thought it might make them stand out just a little bit. Don't know if it did, but that's all right. So I'll just put all of that aside to dry, and I have another picture here of a map out of the same book. They are glossy, so the stains tend to just pull on top a bit. So I use my oxide as well to get a bit more colour on top. And even that pulled a bit on this picture. I do like the way the little droplets look, but I'm not getting the colour on that I wanted. So I then go in with an oxide spray and then spread that around with my plastic, and that grunged it up nicely. So now I'm sticking that first map piece onto the background page. I've let them dry. So I'm just making like a page topper, is that what you call them? It's just a page that I can stick on a page in a journal. And I'm adding this second map piece to some packaging there just to make a tag. So that's another picture off of the freebie. And you can see that I've left the edges on and just cut across the corners. And I'm just scoring down the edges so that I can fold them over. And that's just to create a pocket with a bit of room to slip my tag in. Don't always leave an edge up the top, but I did this time, and I'm just folding that down and sticking it down, and it just makes it a little stronger up there when we slip the tag in and out. Just inking around the edges. I think I'm using my ground espresso for the edge inking, and it's very dark. So I have a photo negative there that I've just ripped in half. It's not very easy to rip to begin with, but if you cut it a little bit and then rip, it rips really nicely. So I'm just adhering that with my Helmar tacky glue. I found that worked really well for this. I'll get my distress tool and just distress the top of my pocket just a little bit and add a bit more ink. I've ripped around the edges of the book page as well. So I did print again onto some transparency, and I cut out the clock face there. So I want to stick that over the top of the clock face that is on the pocket already. Just adds a really nice, deep, rich sort of colour to it. The tones are really nice and rich, and it just adds that little glossy accent as well. And then I've got the circle that I added the matte medium to, which I fussy cut out. Just gives it a tiny bit of dimension, and I want to stick that down over the top. So I'm just inking around it on the outside and inside so that you can't see how messy I cut the circles, basically. And then I just stick that on top. So I've tried printing on transparency before that I had here, and I left it overnight and it did not dry at all. It was a failure. But recently in the secondhand shop, I found some transparency, and one side of it's almost like sandpaper, and I thought, ooh, that might work. So, and it does, it prints beautifully. So I'm having fun with that at the moment. So now I've got one of the other pictures that I've fussy cut. Just inking around the edges there. It's a beautiful picture, that one. And again, I have printed the clock face out on the transparency there. So I want to add that, and you can just see how rich it makes the colours when you stack it like that. It's just hard to sort of get it placed exactly on top of the other one so that the clock numbers don't look fuzzy. So again, just using the tacky glue there, and that worked really good. I was going to stick the other circle on the top of that clock as well, but I decided, and then I was going to stick another fussy cut of the people over the top of that. But I decided I really liked the richness that the transparency gave, so I decided to leave it like that. So I just checked that my tag fits in the pocket all right, and then I cut the corners off. Ink around the edges with the ground espresso again. It's a nice contrast because it's so dark. And the back's still just the plain packaging. So I grabbed out some of this vintage diary page that I had a scrap of, and I thought I would just rip a bit of that to add some writing space on the back. Rip the corners off. Then ink around that, of course. Thought I'd darken up the back of the tag there so it doesn't look so much like plain packaging. So there's my transparency sheet that I printed, and I decided that I'd like that train to put on my tag. Initially I was going to sort of fussy cut it out, but I thought it would actually probably look a little more seamless if I keep the transparency to sort of fit the width of the tag. So I'm just cutting the edges down to make them straight and so that they sort of fit to the sides of the tag. And I just add the tacky glue around the edges. I thought you'd probably be able to see it a little bit, but it's amazing how as you press it down, it just disappears. I know it does dry clear, that glue, but sometimes you can still see it under things like vellum and that. But it worked really well with the transparencies. A very simple tag, but I love the way it looks because that train is awesome. Or steam engine, whatever you call it. And then I decide my pocket's a bit too clean. So I grab out my distress stains again, do a bit more smushing with them. So that's the antique linen that I'm using there just to get some of the yellow tones on. I think that one's gathered twigs, but it's so dark in that stain. But that's all right, I like the way it looked. And then I decide to carry on a bit of the splushing onto my tag. So I have one of those Tim Holtz, what do you call them? It's sort of like a book plate thing. And it's silver, so I'm using my alcohol ink there, just a brown toned one to add a bit of colour so it looks a little more bronze, because I do have some of the Tim Holtz cogs there. I think the Tim Holtz ones. And they're bronze-ish, so I want them to go together. So on my tag, I want to add a couple of holes to dangle my book plate thing from. So I just roughly measured where I wanted my holes. And I'm going to add these little eyelets. I've got a stack of these bronze eyelets and they're the only bronze ones I've got, so I always want to use them, but they don't set well at all. So I tried bashing them down a bit at the back to make them look a bit better, but it didn't really work well, but that's all right. I just want to get using them and buy myself some decent ones. So to attach my little plate, metal plate, I want to use some old jewellery chain. Just taking the lobster clasp off. And I'm running it through the back of my eyelet and then through the front, I think, of my book plate. Took me a while to figure out which way I wanted to do this. And then I join it together at the back with a jump ring. Now, initially I was going to leave it like this and maybe even stick the plate down at the front because it looked a bit awkward. But then I decided to use a couple of bigger jewellery rings to attach the chain both sides to the plate so that it didn't have the chain running behind it. And that worked a bit better. So I did that off camera because I was all shaky and I was so fiddly and it took me forever. So now I'm going to stick my pocket down. So just adding the tacky glue to the 3 folded up edges there. Then I can stick my tag in the top. And then I want to add my cogs. So I'm assuming this is, you could say this is Good Old Days. You could also say it is Time Traveller. So I decided to use my Tiger Grip, Helmar Tiger Grip glue for these. It does state on the back that it sticks metal. And this also dries nice and clear, which is awesome. And it worked really well. I always get a bit stressed when I see all this glue peeking out here and there, so I did try to get it off with my cotton bud there, but I couldn't get into a lot of it, and I found that it did dry clear, so it didn't bother me afterwards. So here's my finished page, and as I said, I'd probably just put this onto a page in a steampunk or vintage style journal. And I love the way it turned out. I love this page. It must have been the title page because it says the steam engine and the steam turbine, so that worked out perfect as a background. And it was heaps of fun using those distress stones. So I can take the tag out. So you can, I don't know if you can see on camera, but there's like the gloss from the transparency just on the clock faces, which I really like because it sort of matches in with the negative there. And then we've got the transparency of the train there. And those stones worked really nicely just to grunge up the papers a bit. And there's the back, so you can see the chain runs between the back, which I kind of like. And this plate sort of dangles, and I did in the end attach it with some bigger jewellery chain loops there so it doesn't run on the back of there, and it just hangs like that. So that was heaps of fun. Thank you so much, Tracie, for the awesome prompts. So as I said, the prompt challenge I think is a monthly occurrence in the Foxy Crafters. So if you're not already in the Foxy Crafters, come over and join and get in on the monthly challenge with us and show us what you make. Heaps of fun seeing what everyone is doing. So take care of yourself. All the links are down below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.